Hey everybody, welcome back to Talking Cardboard. In this episode today, Cory and I are going to be talking about an expansion to Dune Imperium called Dune Imperium: The Rise of Ix. As always, if you like what you see here, click the subscribe button, the like button. You can follow us on Twitter. We post a lot of stuff. Cory's very interactive online, and we do a lot of live playthroughs as well. It's almost every week now that we're doing a live stream with games we're playing, including Dune Imperium. And you can follow the link below on screen right now to get to our top 5 games of all time list. And this game appears on all of our lists for top 10 for sure. I don't want to spoil anything. But for some of us, it's even in our top 5 games of all time, Dune Imperium. We wanted to do another video, an expansion review for the Rise of Ix, because this was a very popular expansion to an incredibly popular game. We were just able to get our hands on a copy of this expansion a few weeks ago, and we immediately brought it to the table multiple times. And we're here to kind of give our overview of what's in the expansion, to kind of sway you if you're thinking about getting it to expand your Dune Imperium gameplay. And spoiler alert, you should get it.
Yes.
And then also talk about kind of our review of how this changes the game in general. So Cory, if you want to kind of give a 30-second rewind on Dune Imperium as a game for those people who haven't played Dune Imperium to begin with.
Yeah, so the base game of Dune Imperium is simple, but it brings a couple mechanisms that we really enjoy to the table and combines both of them. And that's deck building mixed with worker placement. So it does it in a really cool way where you've got a hand of cards that have icons on the side of the card. Let's see if we can put that on camera here. And the icons tell you which zones on the board you can send a worker to. You start the game with only 2 agents, so it's a very tight game in that respect. There is a spot on the board that you can get this is the base game. That changes a little bit, but actually, no, it doesn't change at all.
Correct, that one doesn't. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yes. But there is a spot in both versions with the expansion and the base game that you can get a 3rd agent that you are sending to the board in various ways. Also, like in deck building fashion, you are trying to acquire more and more cards to your deck to make it better. You're trying to thin out your deck in various ways to make it better as the game goes as well. All the cards have a cost on it when you're purchasing them to add to your deck, and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty sure you're all familiar, if you're watching this video, with deck building and worker placement, but this game just combines it so well. There are different spots where you're basically gathering resources. You're either trying to gain influence in these different factions, and ultimately, in the base game, you're trying to get up to 10 victory points. The first player to get to 10 victory points triggers the end of the game, and whoever's left with some endgame scoring left over with the most points wins the game. So that's the general overview. There is some combat going on as well, but we can kind of dive into that as we talk about the expansion too.
Yeah, seemingly there's a lot going on, and Dune is based off of the book, the 1970s?
60s, I think.
60s. Okay. Yep. For somebody like myself who didn't read the book or the books or see the movies, that did not negatively impact my gameplay at all. It is still one of my favorite games because you get immersed in what's going on. The artwork for this is fantastic. The gameplay is all very fluid and streamlined, and the expansion just ramps it up another notch. So like Cory alluded a couple of times, one of the expansions was a redesign to the top part of the board. So if you look at the overhead cam, we've got an overlay that changes your shipping area. So we're just going to give a brief overview that it kind of changes some of the council spots, and then it expands on what the CHOAM locations can do. So some of the new added things are this shipping track where we have this new icon. So if you are moving yourself up the shipping track and then you decide to ship everything out, then you're collecting these rewards. And we have a new icon on here, this card as well. This is for technology, and that adds another new component. I'll show it on the overhead cam for a second. This is the planet Ix, and this is technology. So you will be having the opportunity to possibly acquire some of these technologies for spice. And
at the cost of spice.
Yes, at the cost of spice, and going to these locations. So technology is going to be pretty expensive. It can cost up to, I believe, 8 spice, which if you've played this game before, that's a lot. But a lot of these technologies are really game-changing.
Yes.
It's not game breaking, but they do a lot of things that will really augment your gameplay. So some of the ones that we kind of pulled out here is we have one called training drones. And that is simply, if you have this technology, this little icon means you just tap it. So you just flip it over. Then you get to garrison a troop. And you can do that every round.
Yep.
And once we get into other ways that the expansion has changed the game, adding more garrison troops is going to help. It's a nice little free-flowing in.
Yes.
Another one is wind traps. So then when you win a conflict, you get a water. And when you acquire this technology, you instantly get a water. So they're another resource per se that you can be going for, and it really helps your strategy. Then you've got some ones where it's endgame as well. At the round start, you get to draw an extra card. I love that. I mean, I love deck builders. That's one of my favorite mechanisms. So having something where it's running through faster, I love that.
Yeah.
And then it also has endgame, where it says, in this one in particular, worth a victory point if you have at least 2 spice must flow by the end of the game. So if you're acquiring that card a little bit more, it gives you a bonus victory point at the end. So those are some of the technology advances that you can get. Some faction or some leaders, some of the new leaders are a little bit more tech savvy where they lend towards going that route, but everybody has an opportunity to be building up their technology as the game goes along.
Yeah. And another new thing to the game too, as you'll kind of see up in this zone here, is the addition of the dreadnought. Right? Is that up in that area?
Yes, that's over here.
Over here. So
the technology.
Yeah. So not only the technologies, but also the addition of the dreadnought, which is another cool troop that you can add to the garrison to initiate in combat. It works in a very simple way. It doesn't add too much complexity to the game, but just enough to where it's fun to use. It's really cool. You can add it to the garrison. When you add it to the conflict, it counts as 3 combat instead of 2. So it adds a little bit of extra combat, but the really neat thing that I like is that when it, whether it wins or loses in combat, you're not losing the troop or you're not losing the dreadnought.
Yes.
If you win in the conflict, you get to send it out to one of these flag locations to take control of that location for the entire next round. If somebody, either you or somebody else goes to that spot, you get an additional bonus. If you lose with the dreadnought, you just send it right back to the garrison and no harm done. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so it's another way that augments the combat aspect of Dune Imperium, where it's not just cubes, or if you've got the upgraded pack where it actually is soldiers, it's not just that you've got some multifaceted combat going on.
Yep.
Then that kind of actually, speaking about the combat, can lead us into the epic game mode.
Yeah.
So the epic game mode is a different way that you can start. It makes a couple of changes to the way that you'd play the base game. Instead of the end game triggering at 10 points, it now triggers at 12. Everybody starts with 5 troops in their garrison instead of 3. Everybody starts out with an intrigue card, and you get to trade out one of your base cards, Dune the Desert Planet, for this one here, Control the Spice. And as you can see on here, this has a lot more going on than just what Control the Spice was just being able to go to a mining location.
Yeah.
But this one, it definitely soups up the gameplay. It kind of turbocharges what you can be doing on a turn, because you're either giving spice in order to garrison a troop and then remove a card from your deck to thin out your deck. Or if you save it for your reveal phase, you're getting spice. So even if you get locked out of some of these locations and you can't feel like you're generating spice, it still gives you spice. And I think that's a great kind of kickstart for people as well.
A very cool card. And like you said, one of your favorite things with deck building is adding cards or getting cards out of your deck, thinning it out, culling some cards, and that definitely adds some of that variation to this game. Another thing with epic mode that we didn't mention quite yet is that the conflicts start with conflict level 2 and go right from 2 into 3. You don't have a conflict level 1 at the top. So it really ramps up the gameplay. I know you're going up to 12 points instead of 10. It does add some length to the game, but not as much as you'd think, because you're kind of kickstarted right into the conflict right away.
Your decks are more kickstarted. You get an intrigue card, which those are usually something that's strategically helpful. And then the fact that you start with level 2 conflicts, and then you hit all the level 3 ones, and those usually have victory points or multiple victory points on them.
Like that new one?
Yes.
With the 3?
Well, yeah. Not to spoil, but there are definitely some juiced up combats going on. And then it's such a much faster rat race at the end there, where you're always strategizing for how do I get my troops in the combat at the right time, just a little bit more so than in the previous base game.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really valuable conflicts coming at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
rolling right into pros. Did you want to start off with a pro?
Sure.
Okay.
And we'll keep this more focused on the expansion itself.
Yeah.
I really love this Control the Spice card because it lets you remove a card from your deck, and you can be doing that whenever you're drawing this, so the faster that you're cycling through. I love that. I love that it supercharges the things you can do, and then the whole epic mode itself is just a supercharged kind of faster way to get into the meat of this game. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Not for the new player, I wouldn't think. I mean, we have introduced it to newer players before, but it does add quite a bit of depth to the game, in my opinion.
It adds a new flavoring to it without making it more difficult.
Yeah, I suppose there's just a little bit more moving parts going on is all I'm kind of getting at with that. But if you've played this game even once or twice and jumping right into that epic mode, it really does feel epic.
Yes.
So that's really cool.
And we've talked about this, that I don't know if we can really go back to playing the regular...
Spoilers, I can't.
That we want to go epic game mode every time because we just love how much it just juices it up for us who love playing this game.
Yeah, the epic mode really adds a ton of the game in a great way. One of my pros for the game is just really pretty much everything that the expansion adds.
Yes.
This overlay up here and the way the shipping track works is just so much fun for me. Mm-hmm. I find myself going for that strategy, or I don't know if it's so much a strategy, but that area of the board a lot more than in the base game, when that was kind of a dead zone up there. You had... kind of a worthless spot here where you could garrison a troop and get an extra influence for buying a card. So that spot wasn't used very much, and garrisoning some, 4 troops, but not having conflict.
That was a very costly space.
Very costly for what it did. Maybe if it had a conflict icon on it to send people in, it would be a lot more valuable, obviously. And then selling spice for Solari, that was a much needed spot that people typically jumped on.
People spammed that.
Yeah, spammed it and just blocked it right away. And that's kind of another cool thing with the expansion too, is you have some cards that allow you to go to a spot that has already, like a previous player has already placed a pawn on.
Yeah, so there's a tiny icon on some of the new cards where it's like half an agent, and then it allows you to go to a space that somebody else's agent has been to. You can't double up on your own, but you can kind of sneakily get in there. And that sort of takes away from some of the boxing people out of locations. That definitely happened in the base game. I didn't think it was a con that would happen, but it would kind of slow you down if you were getting boxed out of the spaces that you really needed to go. So having some of those cards thrown in is a really nice way to kind of sidestep a little bit what other people are trying to do, so you can still do your thing. And then going off of what you mentioned with the spice, Solari, at least the way that we've been playing it, has been much more scarce now, because you don't have the straight up spice for Solari exchange. That instead, in the new version, that you have this 5 and then everybody else gets one. That icon is a little hard to see. But then that's kind of spreading the wealth, and that seems like it's a little bit more thematic if you check the overhead cam on that. That's a little bit more thematic, where if you are having a really good shipping engine going, other people are getting financial benefit from it as well, but just a lot less. So that's a good kind of balancing out, instead of you just bum rushing and getting 8 money, is then you get 5, but then everybody else gets 1.
Well, what's really cool too is anybody can spam the heck out of that shipping track and not block anybody on it.
That is a good point.
You can tailor that to whatever you want to do. You can move the pawn up to the top to get all 3 rewards, or you can just quickly go up 1, go down 1. Quick spam of some money, give somebody else some money, or if some needed spice, if you need the spice. But and another pro for me, the technologies.
Yes.
That's an obvious.
You really hit that technology hard when we've played in the few times we've been able to play this with the expansion. You really go after the technologies.
Even more so than the dreadnoughts. And I've even started with the new leader who benefits from having dreadnoughts, which is 4 combat versus only 3. 3 still strong, but 4 obviously stronger. But that technologies, I have fun, a lot of fun looking at, because only the top
there's only
technology
3 that are revealed.
Of each stack is revealed. I have a lot of fun every time a new one is turned over, finding a way that I can utilize that for my overall strategy. And kind of pivoting strategy. But it doesn't force you to pivot too much, which is really cool too.
And a lot of these are really useful to help build your engine, and it's a transforming engine. That's one of the best things about this game, is there's no well-traveled track that you go down to win. That even in the base game, there's so much variability for different ways you could maneuver and be in the lead or be winning. And if you watch our live playthroughs, it was 2 weeks ago, we had one where I was down by 2 or 3 points. And then in the last round, I scored, I think, 5 victory points to pull out a win.
Yep.
So like there's so many different ways and avenues and kind of catch-ups, and the technology is a great seamless addition to that the heart of the game, where there are so many ways that you can be advancing your agendas.
That's a really good point, because in the last game we played, I remember being back at least 5 or 6 victory points. I was way, way behind, and I felt like it was a misplay here or a misplay there, or I could have done this a little bit differently, but I still felt like I was in the game. Like I could have rattled off 5 victory points in the last round. Sure, it's not enough to win. I was still going to be back by 1 or 2 victory points from maybe second place or whatnot. But if you're behind 4 or 5 victory points, you are not out in this game.
You never feel like you're out of it. And with the intrigue cards, and I made a point to not look at all the new intrigue cards, so I can't say there are X number that are end game victory points, but there are plenty of catch-up mechanisms that don't feel like the leaders are getting weighed down. You always feel like you're in it. And just so many avenues to success in this game. And we haven't even hit on all of the stuff that this expansion adds to the game of Dune Imperium. Another thing that we can kind of touch on if you want to check that overhead screen is this icon down here on some of the cards. And the left part of it is if you discard this card. The right part is if you are trashing this card or removing it from the game, then you get this bonus. And that is in addition to if you don't do either one with that card when you reveal it. So there are some cards now that are much more flexible, or you could be getting that bonus multiple times. Like that one was the shipping one. So if you wanted to move up on the shipping track because you reveal that card and then another card says that you trash, then you can activate this shipping effect again. So then you ship off, and then you could be getting more money and spice that you need.
Yes.
So much more dynamic activity going on. So much fun.
It makes some of the weaker base game cards a little bit more strong too.
Yes.
I think it's called like the spy probe card or whatever the one was for the one influence. It makes it more valuable because when you're trashing that card, it could actually trigger some other card effects based on the trash effect.
Yes.
So that's really cool. I forget exactly how that combos, but anyway, the additions to not only the board state and the different things going on the board, but the additions to the cards that get added to the main deck really play so well off of each other.
Yes.
Really add some really nice flavor, and nothing feels imbalanced still. Nothing feels like, oh, hey, they really missed the ball on this one.
Correct. And the new leaders, one of the things I love from the base game is on your leader card, it's got a rating 1 through 3 stars, essentially, for how difficult it is to play.
4 now.
Yeah, there's a 4-star difficulty, which we haven't played with yet because some people are intimidated by it, and others of us just find a better leader to choose. But they help facilitate a level playing field with, you could be choosing a more difficult complex leader or a more straightforward leader that probably the signet ring bonus isn't quite as good, that type of thing. But then there's a level 4 one that is kind of complex. At least reading through it took me 2 read-throughs in order to really get the idea of what it was supposed to be doing. That's the closest thing that I could see to a con for this.
Yeah. But
and it's not
really a con.
Yeah.
No, and my con is the same con I have with any game not only exclusive to Dune, and that is the race in points. Race to the finish. Another exception is viticulture in this.
Yes.
You're racing to a certain point amount, and then that triggers the end of the game. I usually don't like that. In this game, it doesn't bother me. I just wanted to throw that out there. If you're a person who just absolutely doesn't like the fact that you're working really, really hard for 1 or 2 points at a time, then this game might not be for you. But at the same time, I have to say that it could be for you too, because it's for me.
Yeah, well, and there is kind of a round timer in terms of there's only 10 conflicts. But I like the idea is if you're boat racing and if you're way ahead of the game, you can end it sooner. Yeah. I like that there can be that goal line. And even then, it's not like you get to 12, you win. You get to 12 and that triggers the end game, or when you run out of conflicts.
Right.
So either way, and we've had it go both ways, where somebody gets to 12 points before the last conflict, or we get to the last conflict and we're down here at 8 and 9. But then with end game scoring is we're right up there at 12 anyways.
Yeah.
It's just, it is all around. It is such a good, well-rounded game.
And sometimes it comes down to a tiebreaker.
Yes.
Too. There's a new intrigue card that's a tiebreaker?
Well, there's a new technology.
Yes, new technology that's a tiebreaker. And then there's the spice, which is still a tiebreaker too. And an intrigue card that has the tiebreaker name on it. So there's a few different ways that they throw in the tiebreaker mechanism for a winner to combat against, yes, this is a tight game and that you might have some ties.
Yeah.
So that's they designed that really well too.
Yeah.
So that has been a success. Any other cons for you?
No,
I know there's a lot of them. So.
Even those weren't cons. They're just things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was your rating of base game only before we got to the expansion?
Because when we did the original Dune Imperium review, I was not there. It was just you and John.
Right.
If you want a link to that video, you can find that below to the original Dune Imperium review with Cory and John.
Yeah.
I don't know what a perfect game would look like, so I don't know if I ever give out a 10 out of 10 or would. You know, that's just me. Like, I don't know what a perfect game would be. This is my favorite game. So this would be...
It's got to be a 10 out of 10 then.
So, I mean, round up.
Right now.
You would round up.
For right now.
You'd round up to 10 out of 10. Because it has everything that I love. It's so deep. It's so dynamic. I would give this is, spoiler alert, this is my favorite game of all time. So I would give this a 10 out of 10. And I didn't think that it needed to get better. It didn't have anything that needed to be fixed to improve the gameplay or the experience. And then you go and you have an expansion like this. And this is how much I love this game, is I don't even own the base game. And I was the one that bought the expansion online. Yep. And then I said, I don't care. We're just add it to the base game because I'm going to play this as much as anybody anyways. I just want to be adding to this experience. I love this game so much. So, it's still a 10 out of 10. It's still my top game. And I understand if it's not for everybody. I wouldn't say that this needs to be in everybody's collection because it does have a lot of mechanisms going on. But if you like deck builders, this is my favorite one of those. If you like Euro style, where it's kind of worker placement, again, it's my favorite one of those. So it's scratching all of these itches that it is my favorite game of all time.
And it scratches the player interaction itch with the conflicts too, which you don't see in a whole lot of Euros. It adds so many cool things. My original rating of just the base game alone was a 9.5 out of 10. So just fantastic. And I think it's a little bit, like you said, it's a little bit difficult to give out the 10 out of 10s. That's a very rare thing, but we're also looking at it and yes, it's a 10 out of 10, your favorite game of all time, but that's a snapshot in time too. But then again, I don't see this game going down in rating. Unless it went down in rating for you adding in the expansion.
No, of course not. Of course not.
But I did want to say that this game is now a 10 out of 10 for me. An easy 10 out of 10 with the expansion.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, what it added was just what I needed, what I was looking for to make this a 10 out of 10 for me. And I could see this game rising in the ranks next year for my overall games of all time.
And it didn't have much room to go.
No.
And again, not to keep promoting other videos, but, go check out our top 10 list because we talk about this game a lot because there is some disagreement in the ratings for it. Yeah. But it's, we all love it. It's getting to the table almost every week now with whatever people we have to bring to the gaming table with us. Whenever we live stream, this is usually a part of it. Mm-hmm. We all just love this game.
Yeah. I think just to kind of wrap things up here, give it a shot. If it doesn't look like a game that'll interest you, give it a shot anyway. And some people are saying it's overrated, overhyped. Some people are comparing it to the Lost Ruins of Arnak and saying that that's a little bit better version of the same game, but they're not the same game. I own both games. They're not the same game. Completely different. Same mechanisms, maybe, yeah, sure. But this scratches so many of the itches that we were looking for. Mm-hmm. That it's just, it brings both like American thematic style gamers in with Euro gamers, and we can all live happily ever after.
Yeah, so as long as the spice keeps flowing.
Yes, spice must flow.
So with the wrap up, this is one of our favorite games. And this expansion definitely added to it. We think everybody should at least be trying Dune Imperium to see how you feel about that. And if you like the game, the expansion enhances your experience. I don't know if it would win over anybody who was on the fence about the game.
Maybe not in that case.
Yeah. If you didn't like the game, it doesn't change the game. It just makes it more of what it is.
Yeah, but honestly, the expansion was that great to where I feel like, how could we have given it a 9.5 out of 10?
Yeah.
Or how could I have given it a 9.5 out of 10 just
how
for
dare
base
you?
game? I mean, it makes the game look like a 5 out of 10 without the expansion now, to me.
Okay.
Like, that's how much
huge.
I'm never going back to the base game. It doesn't interest me. I don't have any interest in trying the base game alone. Epic mode, I could go back and forth between not doing epic mode once in a while, but the expansion is just necessary now.
So, I mean, that's what prompted us having a special extra video, is just reviewing this expansion. So from here, all of us at Talking Cardboard, we really loved this game. We hope that you are able to play it too and add it to your collection. So until then, keep that spice flowing.